Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome on the dais Mr. Manish Tewari, the Hon'ble Union Minister of State for Information and Broadcasting with independent charge. A lawyer by profession, he was president of the National Students' Union and the Indian Youth Congress. As Member of Parliament, he has been an active member of the team that drafted a private member's bill to bring intelligence agencies in the country under parliamentary oversight. We are delighted with your presence here this morning. Mr. Manish Tewari, please join us here on the dais and kindly address the gathering.
Gentlemen on the dais and the lady who was on the dais, friends who've come from across the length and breadth of the country, I'm told. It's always a great privilege and a pleasure to be back amongst young, ignited minds, to say the least. It not only helps you to recharge your own mental faculties, but more importantly, to draw the energy and sustenance which is extremely essential given the kind of job that all of us try and do on a daily basis. And the reason why I say that is because in the last 2 decades, this world has completely and exponentially changed. I recall a time when I was growing up, there was space available to actually get bored. You could spend an afternoon possibly doing nothing and experiencing what it feels to actually do nothing. And today, even if you want to do nothing, your mobile phone and your tablet and the surround sound of noise, I don't think will allow you that luxury. So therefore, while on one hand, the march of technology has completely transformed the way that we live and work, at a very subliminal level, it has also taken away that, by its very essence, defines what a human being should be or what he's meant to be. And I think one of the greatest harbingers of this change has been the creation of the internet. Now, a lot of people take credit for inventing the internet, including one of the former presidents of one of the former vice presidents of the United States of America. But the fact is that it originated as an experiment in the Defense Advanced Projects Laboratory. And it is perhaps the single largest experiment in anarchy. And it has unfortunately or fortunately succeeded. Never before in the history of mankind, or humankind to be politically correct, has so much power been available with so many people concurrently at the same time across the world. There is more data which is created every 2 days than possibly from the dawn of civilization till about 2003. And so what we are seeing, and that's why the one world and the role of India, China, and the USA become extremely important, is because you have 2 parallel civilizations. a physical civilization which has evolved over the millennia, and a virtual civilization which is evolving. And the balance between these two civilizations is really going to define what the remaining decades of the 21st century are going to look like. The United States of America emerged from an era of exceptionalism, of splendid isolation at the beginning of the 20th century, when willy-nilly, kicking and screaming, it got dragged into the First World War. And from 1918, when the US President, the then US President, Mr. Woodrow Wilson, tried to reimagine the architecture of global governance through the pioneering attempt at creating the League of Nations, the United States continues to be the single biggest outside balancer in the affairs of the world, even in the second decade of the 21st century. China, after a fairly long period of internal turmoil, commencing from the end of the Long March to the end of Mao Zedong's reign, finally decided to make that leap of faith, and over the past 3 decades has succeeded in possibly becoming the single biggest emerging power which has the potential of really upsetting the power balance of the world as it has been frozen in perpetuity since 1945. And in this scenario, when very rapidly from unipolarity or from the bloc politics to unipolarity to a semblance of multipolarity that we've moved in the last 10 or 12 years, where does this all leave India? With all its million mutinies, has gone hand in hand with not only an equitable model of development, but more importantly, a model which is open, which is liberalized, which is inclusive, and coupled with the very innate spiritual civilizational strength that we have, it still holds the promise of continuing to be the moral beacon of humankind and civilization as we look forward to the next 2 decades. And it's not only going to be the interplay of the India-United States and or United States, China and India, but also the other emerging economies, the other emerging nations, especially in Africa, Latin America and South America, which are going to shape this one world. But while on one hand, technology has rendered Westphalian borders or elements of sovereignty as virtually redundant, it has also thrown up an insurmountable challenges. And one of those fundamental challenges is that when does an act in a virtual civilization become an existential threat or an act of war in a physical civilization? And therefore, as very responsible members of the global community, people who leverage technology not only to better lives, it is very imperative that we must see that common rules of engagement, globally accepted rules of engagement emerge in the virtual civilization. It is only through the emergence of globally accepted rules of engagement would we be able to isolate, maybe not eradicate, but at least isolate the elements of the dark net or the specter of the hidden people, but more importantly, help in preserving this, the freedom of this global commons, which is the single biggest constant which defines the unified world as we know it today. And therefore, for all those who are proponents of free speech, who are advocates of freedom of speech and expression, I think it is fundamentally important that we recognize the one transformational technological change which unites all of us, which has helped in creating this global identity and ensure that we work towards preserving and protecting it in the manner as we know it. Because my fear is that if enough is not done, and enough is not done rapidly enough, then you may have a situation whereby the balkanization of the net becomes as much a reality as the emergence of the net over the last 2.5 decades. I do not really know what has been the drift of the discussion since today morning, but the one thing I am very confident of is that if we keep moving with perseverance towards creating structures and forums which believe and work for creating the sovereign identity or the conceptual identity, I correct myself, of a global citizen, we will definitely end up making this place a better planet to live in. Once again, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me, for giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts and views with all of you. And I wish your deliberations all the best, all the success, and Godspeed. Thank you very much.